Hello, everyone. Welcome to DNA's October webinar. Don't be spooked out of scaling your budget. Don't be spooked to scale. This is a common discussion for us. Already been on several calls around this theme today, whether it's with prospective clients, partners, internal team members, want to be able to talk about growth. Very excited to have Janette Cornish, account manager here at DNA with us today. Janette, how is your morning going?
Hey, good morning. It is going well. Excited to be here today speaking with you. My first webinar with you, so thank you for having me. But yeah,
Of
morning's
course.
going well. How's your day?
Good. Already a few hours into calls here. Favorite time of the month, webinar time. It's October. Threw in some relevant themes, per team request. It's going to be exciting Web-inar that the team has been planning. But Janette, wanted to start with your background, familiarize the audience a bit with who you are, talking about campaigns you've worked on here, if you want to kick things off.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. As mentioned, my name is Janette Cornish. I am an account manager here at DNA. Been here creeping up on a year. So I've worked on a high volume amount of campaigns, seen, different ones come in, successful ones, understanding scaling. My background is in marketing. I've worked in different arenas from entertainment to fashion. So bringing it full circle here, working with multiple businesses and campaigns. And yeah, definitely excited.
Excellent. And for any regular viewers, you may know DNA is an investor and user acquisition agency working with startup to mid-market businesses, have run over 300 investor marketing campaigns that have collectively produced 9 figures of capital. We've seen initiatives work. We've seen campaigns underperform, have been able to manage many of the ones that were stalled, plateaued to a point of effectiveness. That's where all these learnings come from. That's where these insights have emerged within our organization and what we're sharing with you here today. So, like giving that background and to remind where this all comes from. We have a deck prepared for today, as we do every month. You're able to email us, send us a LinkedIn message. We'll make sure you get a copy of this, and you'll have links to our LinkedIns. Always recommend that you reach out to Janette, reach out to myself. Want to start with the concept of scale. Janette, what is scaling? Why is it such an important part of all of our client agency discussions?
Yeah, I think scaling is the ultimate goal, right? We as marketers want to try different things. We're testing things, we're seeing what works. And at the end of the day, we want more of it. So in this case, it's more traffic. If you have a boutique, it's more stores, maybe. If you have a service, it's, getting more of that on different channels. So I think scaling is just whatever you have at more volume, seeing what works, yeah, and growing off of that.
Exactly. It's what all of our clients are looking for. They're saying, hey, how do we hit our full goal? How do we grow our business, our valuation accordingly? How do we do things at scale? How do we do things at levels up here? Our whole philosophy, which if you're a listener, viewer of our podcast, test, optimize, scale, we summarize into 3 words. It's all encompassing. I've done multiple exercises to get it to that point at that and break it down into 3 words. And that is the ultimate. Every marketing campaign is a test until the data is telling us otherwise. We're optimizing each ad set, each content post, audiences, creatives, funnels, so that we can improve every tactic, then optimize towards the segments that are performing best. And ultimately, this is what we're looking to do: provide clients the ability to scale. So this can mean doing things at higher volumes, an ultimate goal of a marketing strategy, not just marketing for the purpose of marketing, but for hitting these different numbers and scaling channels to get there, finding a comfortable point to begin, but scaling there, and using marketing towards growth. As it's working, you want to be able to grow it further and further.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is, right there it says potential and just going onwards and upwards. So it's where you're starting and where you want to go. It's taking that and driving the momentum up. So, as mentioned in this case, we want more traffic, more investors. So it's taking that whatever that is, creatives, different marketing channels, and doing it at a bigger level.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Clients will find more of a starting ad budget level, starting traffic budget level, then scale to higher levels, even asking us how much of this can we do once it's working. Getting a little tougher to gauge these days. We're going to speak with that a bit further. Many campaigns should be scaling that are not because of some obstacles with pixel tracking, because of attribution and determining what is coming from where, which channels are the key drivers. But this is ultimately what groups are looking to do. And for us, starting point of traffic, starting point of a campaign, those levels are less important. And what stands out more is a group's ability to scale. And we've seen this on our top client campaigns. We're going to be able to address that further today. What are a few more things that the term scale can mean, Janette?
Yeah, definitely. So it can mean a few things. So I think I mentioned this before. So more locations for a store, right? So Starbucks, McDonald's, they didn't start on every corner of every block in the world or America, right? They started at one location, right? And then as momentum hit, they added more locations. So that's scaling in that sense. So if you have an idea, if you have an office, it's taking it to another part of the country, it's taking it to another city. As a software platform or software as a service, it's taking that to different consumers and just having the infrastructure to withstand that bandwidth to continue to scale
Mm-hmm.
and to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to have a growth model, an overall projection with timeline on when you're hitting different levels. We talk about this in depth for our strategy processes, strategy webinars, strategy workshops. We go into detail about how to build a growth plan and how that plan scales over time. So, as Janette's mentioning, whether it's more users, customers, clients, more distribution points. In our case, more investors, more users as a whole. We want to find scalable channels to get there. Don't want to see one article hit and then big gaps between that activation and the next organic press coverages, the next sets of third parties that are pointing to your brand, your raise, your platform. We want to look for channels that we see something working and could say, hey, let's do more of that next week. Let's do more of it the following week, but at a 20% higher level, 100% higher level. If that works, here's where we're going to take it from the next stage at that point. It's been what has stood our top clients, top campaigns apart and from other groups in the industry. Now, what role does scaling play in a marketing campaign? For marketing, we're talking about traffic. For raise, more traffic means more investors looking at the deal. We've talked about the algorithm here before, impressions, clicks, conversions, bunch of associated metrics. But if we're getting more visibility of the content, more visibility of the advertising, if we're hitting the same click-through rate metrics, it means more traffic. If the traffic's converting at the same levels, it means more conversions, more investors. And if those investors are going through a range of different transactional values, it likely means more large investors. We've seen with more scale, not only more volume, but more investors come in at much higher entry points. And that, of course, averages out. Every 100 investors, you get every 1,000. You may get one of these big outliers. So you want to be able to hit that volume. Also, peer-to-peer marketing is the ultimate form of marketing. Talked about the algorithm a little bit, reflects the funnel a little bit. The funnel talks about awareness to consideration of the deal, intent, those who intend to invest, and a small percentage of them do. Then you have conversion. This first conversion's investors. There's repeat conversion, and we're seeing 10 to 30% of investors participate multiple times on Reg CF campaigns, regulation crowdfund campaigns. Below that, though, the ultimate stage of the funnel is peer-to-peer marketing. So more traffic means more investors means more investors recommending to other investors as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you said it there, word of mouth. So the more people that we can reach, the more that they're, putting it to their audience and their channels. So in this case, more traffic, there's millions of billions of, people on the World Wide Web. So the more that we can optimize towards them, reach out to them in their networks, the more potential investors we have, for your equity crowdfunding campaign. So definitely, there's so many channels out there, so many different ways to tap in and reach these people, but it's about not being spooked, right? The potential's out there. So it's about believing in what you're doing and keeping that momentum going.
Absolutely. I love how you pointed out those numbers. There's over 3 billion monthly active users on Facebook alone. You are not doing things at scale, is what I would tell any brand. There's more available on these social platforms for advertising targeting. There are more pages, influencers, individuals that could be talking about your campaign, about your offering, about your raise. There's only so many Reg A pluses that hit 75 million, the full cap. There's only so many Reg CFs that hit the full 5 million and in public modes of their campaign. Reg Ds as well. We're barely scratching the surface, and a lot of ad campaigns with that starting point, it's barely conclusive data. Working on Fortune 500 campaigns can tell you that a much larger critical mass is needed for market testing on daily spend levels, daily traffic levels, and for the course of weeks to months. And if it's a shorter run, need a high volume of testing before, so that 3-week push or whatever it may be is polished and ready. So there's always space to do things at higher scale.
Definitely.
Now, Janette, why do clients get spooked when it comes to scaling discussions?
Well, I think people get spooked in general when they kind of don't have, conclusive data that they can speak to. Everything is kind of testing. You don't know what you're going to do if scaling, costs money, right? You're trying to reach more people, but it costs more money. And putting that on the line, it's kind of risky. It's kind of scary to an extent, but if you're looking at your metrics, in this case, your front end metrics, you're looking at your analytics, and you're really speaking to the data of what's working, there really is no reason to be spooked if all of that is working in your favor. But I would just say, yeah, people are spooked because it's unknown. You're going into new waters, you're going into bigger waters, right? But if you look at the full picture of it, you're just reaching more mass, right? And at the end of it, reaching more mass can get you closer to your goal. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that sense. But yeah, I think that's why people get spooked, is just kind of the fear of the unknown and trying something new.
Yeah. And it's a chicken or egg scenario, as many perspective groups that want to work with us point out, in terms of budgeting. They're looking to raise capital. Meanwhile, being told that they need to spend on marketing and really put efforts into acquiring investors. Same's true for early stage groups, mid-market organizations that perhaps are looking towards growth, where they want to hit these next levels so they can get a higher valuation. Meanwhile, that they have budget limitations. So I know a lot of it comes from budgeting. Also, resource allocation beyond monetary assets. How much time can we set up our team to speak with prospective investors, strategic partners? What are our time commitments? Are we able to do this? Are we able to have more discussions at higher volume? And then beyond that too, just public presentation. So if they are scaling a campaign that's marginally working, what does that say to onlookers, maybe groups that are businesses that are looking to work with them, B2B business? Could that be affected if the raise is low? Meanwhile, the awareness is higher. All of that gets brought up in our conversations. And I would point back to strategy and a good plan. Don't launch a campaign without having a campaign plan. You fail to plan, you're planning, at least to some level, to fail. And I think that's where a lot of the resistance to scaling comes from, is that background preoccupation of, is this going to fail? I don't know. This is an expense. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
It definitely has that spookiness feel to it. Meanwhile, if you know what you're going to be spending and what the traffic is going to be producing, how that traffic is being set up to convert, what you're going to do to pivot, to optimize if it's not working. Again, not everything works on the first go round. And we've worked on many campaigns. We've been able to manage to a point of performance versus just seeing it day one. And even when we do see it right out of the gate, we always want to improve it, always want to do it at higher volumes. So it's tough to just spend more time, money, whatever it may be. It on the flip side is something that we're pushed to do as it's working, because at that point you're buying more investors, you're buying more users, the acquisition costs. It is very attractive and desirable, but want to find that space in between for this webinar today of, if you know where the expenses are going and that you want to give your campaign, your brand, its best shot towards success of hitting these levels of results, you should be leaning into scale, not finding excuses on why this may not work, which they're always there. And, getting to market conditions, everything mentioning before that is really applying to any period of time.
Definitely.
Next, you have obstacles for any time of year. In the summer, hey, investors are traveling. In the holidays, hey, we're bidding against other brands running their holiday advertising campaigns. Investors are out again. This year, there's been major concerns around war, cryptocurrency crashes, different market bubbles, even real estate, interest rates, fear about the economy. Janette, what do you hear about these type of conversations from clients, and how do you paint the picture that their campaign's live and they should be scaling?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is right. There's always something to kind of discourage, right? Whether it's the holidays or the seasons. In this case, it's the economy, stock market, things like that. Are people really investing anymore? How are we going to do this long term? But the fact is like investing continues. There's stuff that, people are still growing into. Some of the top campaigns are getting a lot of the investments, but it's because they're leaning into scaling. It's because they're leaning into not being spooked and just going full force and not really listening to that outside noise, because, business still goes on. So I would definitely just say that in the equity crowdfunding range, it's still working. People are still investing. It's just really making sure that you have, like you said, a strong foundation, a strong start, a strong plan, and just, trying to show that you are strong and can, stand up against whatever trials and tribulations are occurring in the economy.
Exactly. How to work through that. And we saw a dip in the market in total investments in July. We saw a dip, but a higher amount raised in August, and then a slightly higher amount raised in September. and October's already surpassed those amounts, and we still have time left here. So what we're watching is the groups that are pushing through with their plans, the groups that are seeing some performance and then scaling, doing more of it and right away, and not just looking at vanity metrics of, hey, are we at 10x return on ad spend for advertising from this week? Or are we at a positive return as a whole? And we want to do more of that. We've seen those campaigns and those mindsets produce substantially different levels of results. We're seeing in the industry, the top 5% of campaigns get the majority of investors. The top 10% doing okay, not even great, and 90% delivering lower than their goals, not operating at scale. 50% of campaigns raised very little for October accordingly. It's the groups that are scaling, the groups that are pushing into it, the groups that are saying, hey, we're live, we're going to do whatever we can to get traffic. We're going to bring on investors no matter, how many shifts that we need to do, that are actually doing it. And doing it at good levels, good returns, and through, whatever else is showing up in the media or current events. And that's why we're seeing this lift right now. November, December have been top months in the past years. I remember 2020, record, hey, November's higher than past months, December's higher than past months. Last year, similar types of results. So, that's a major concern for groups, the holiday. Then the uncertainty, I've seen groups that have been waiting to go live since February, since different escalations of war. And we don't know what's around the corner. I can't say, hey, January is your month, it's going to be great. That could be recession. That could be something that takes audiences away. So regardless of what's happening, I try to use the most with the time, the most precious resource that you have as a founder, as an issuer, for these types of campaigns. Try to make the most use of the time that we can. And filings are live for 12 months. Extensions are possible from there. If you're working with the portal, they may have a 2-3 month window and then rules for how much you have to raise to stay live on the portal. You want to make sure you're hitting those. If you're self-publishing, you may be able to stay live and keep traction throughout the course of the year. And the importance for me to mention the year is you're going to hit every period of the year by doing so. You're going to hit ups and downs in the economy. You're going to hit different current events that distract people from placing investments that day, that week, maybe longer. So it's more of how to operate versus putting your business at pause.
Exactly. Yeah, it's working through the how, and not pausing, because if you pause, you're definitely getting 0 out of 0 investments, right? So it's learning about the ebbs and flows, continue to stick to a strong marketing plan. And when you do see, positive return, when you do see something that it's working, test it out, make sure that it is working, and then try to do it at a higher scale, at higher volumes. And that's how ultimately you are going to hit that goal, those metrics.
And you have the data, you have assumptions. We want to work things off the data. And once a campaign's there, we want to be scaling it. Looking at the data and investor quotes, discussions that we've had, they're looking at these vehicles of private equity as long-term, 5-7 years, 8-10 years for liquidity events. And in many cases, private equity is being looked out to ride out the storm of any potential downturns to the market. So I try to look at it from that light. I try to really step in the shoes of the prospective investor. We've made ads, we've made content that speak to market conditions and why it's important now to invest, to explore these different types of opportunities. So we're not ignoring it. We're not saying, hey, the world's at a better place than it has ever been, as much as now is the perfect time, and here's why.
Exactly.
What type of recommendations do you have for founders when they think scale is questionable?
So when thinking of scaling, I would definitely say look at your raise overall. And as I was mentioning, what is working for you? What messaging is working? What channels are you seeing the most positive feedback on that, you are seeing conversions from? I would say from there, whatever's working, make sure you lean into that. So what is it saying? As a founder, to scale is questionable and concerning whether to spend. But yeah, if you look at those metrics that are working, I would definitely say that's the numbers don't lie when it comes to data, when it comes to your Facebook metrics and Facebook analytics. Yeah, definitely looking. And I know we're going to get further into like click-through rates and impressions and why those numbers make sense. But I would definitely recommend you know, to lean into that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as soon as there's indicators that you can scale, identify that, latch onto it, because as we mentioned, more traffic equals more investors equals more social sharing, also more high net worth, more high transactional ticket investments. So you want to be finding ways to scale. The clients that are asking us each week, how can we scale? How can we do more? Are the ones that we see hitting the highest goals, and they're doing that with and without us. They're beyond what we're doing with advertising, content marketing, direct outreach, speaking at conferences on a weekly
Hmm.
basis, various types of speaking opportunities. They're bringing in their own investments. They'll have an angel come in with that jump to the campaign. We'll see individuals that have come from advertising around the sidelines participate at higher levels. So being able to find out where you could do more makes all the difference. Mentioned before, less interested in vanity metrics, less interested in saying DNA is so great. We did a 30x on this campaign. We had 30x on this raise last week, as much as this campaign's doing well. Here's where we're seeing performance. We can't track everything, but from what we are watching, this is a positive ROI. We're going to do more of that next week. And if it works, going to have the same conversation the following week. And by being able to identify those pockets of performance, the segments that are really driving and doing more of what's working, we're able to get things to whole new levels.
Yeah, definitely.
Janette, how do we conquer
Mhm.
fears around scaling?
Well, I think it's speaking to what you just mentioned, tapping into different channels, making sure that you are speaking at different events, trying to get as many press features as you can, show that you are strong, show that you are, doing everything that you can to get your product and your business out there, that it is working, that it is functional. Um, I think that is the ultimate way of showing that, you can weather the storm, is just leaning into all of the good things out there in the marketing scheme, as you're mentioning, just trying different things. And yeah, I think people will really resonate with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I actually learned in 2009, 2008, when there's market slowdowns, it is the time to show that you are strong, that you are
Hmm.
growing. Whether you're speaking to an investor, towards a strategic partner, to your customers and clientele, you want to show that you're strong and growing. And scaling advertising, scaling marketing is a great way to do that. Scaling shows
Hmm.
traction and ultimately that you are thriving. Adding more fuel to the fire has, an effect that will weigh in an exponential fashion to audiences.
Hmm.
Some of our campaigns go pretty heavy at retargeting, but with a frequency cap on the daily basis. So we're showing up to prospective audiences daily. We're not overdoing it to the point of fatigue, but I want that feel from the target audiences that, wow, this brand is everywhere. There's
Yeah.
new ads, new content, new achievements, new
Hmm.
partners. Every time I look, every time I'm on their offering page, they've raised more. These guys are doing something. crowdfunds are largely, social dynamics at play. So being able to have that live and present definitely works. And sometimes this doesn't show up in terms of actual numbers until the end of the campaign. Sometimes
Mhm.
we'll see a big growth in terms of the audience pool, and that audience does not really come to bat till the last couple weeks, last couple days, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Never what you want to hear spending into a campaign. But you want the fear to go away when you see that scaling's working week after week, and then just be able to do things at as high volume as you can. Even if you use the whole 12 months, it often feels short. Some
Yeah.
campaigns hit the full amount and do so early. Uh, Others, the buzzer goes off, and when they have traction, so you want to be able to really utilize every week. Even if you hit the full goal, get a waiting list, have your next round ready to go, but look at each week as a precious building block.
Definitely. I like what you're saying, adding more fuel to the fire, making sure you have new creatives. Like you said, we're building this huge retargeting funnel, retargeting channel where, yeah, we want to see new stuff. We want to see milestones. We want to see, hey, like you're saying, new ads where it's showing momentum, it's showing growth, whether it's a milestone, whether it's, being featured on Forbes, or, whether it's how you did for Q2, just showing those and really trying to do it on a weekly basis, I think, will definitely show you're thriving. It's kind of like going to the gym, you don't just go to the gym once and see results. You have to go for a few weeks. You have to be consistent, right? So I think scaling is about consistency, and after week is when you're going to see those results. So, yeah.
I have friends that have gone to the gym a couple times and said, "Yeah, I wasn't seeing results," and started making excuses on why they didn't go. I think
Mhm,
that's such a perfect analogy, and it in many regards it is a muscle. Um,
mhm.
so when is a good time to scale?
Yeah. From my experience, looking at front end metrics, making sure that everything is consistent. So, really quick though, I know with the iOS 14 update, there is some stuff that we just can't see anymore as a result of privacy restrictions. But for the front end metrics that we can see, I think looking at stuff that's average to above average. So click through rate, you really want to look at something that's so average click through rate is like 1%. But if you're seeing 2% or 3%, your ads are performing really well. People are liking them, people are clicking on them. So definitely looking at those metrics. Also seeing how many people you're reaching. So not only your reach, but how many impressions, your CPM, which is your cost per thousand impressions. Um, you know, Keeping that below $50 is pretty average, but if you can get it even below that, reaching more people at less amount of money, I think when those numbers resonate and then you see some conversions, you see your return on ad spend at 3x or above, I think that you can safely say, hey, this is consistent, these numbers are strong. Let's lean into this, let's scale, let's get this audience, but times two, times three, and really lean into that.
Absolutely.
Mhm,
And non-experienced marketers can brush off front end metrics.
mhm,
Hey, we're not interested in clicks. We don't care about impressions. We only want investments,
mhm,
which is really what every issuer is going for, is the investments. The path to get there is where you can make actual changes that will improve your level of results. So the difference between a 1% and 2% click-through rate is 100%.
mhm,
In terms of the cost per acquisition, changing from retargeting CPM of $50. We really shoot for $20, 30 as a CPM on social advertising platforms, and leveraging their unique data.
mhm,
Um, Being able to take a CPM from 40 to 20 and reach the same audiences, but set up so you're at a higher bid spot in the algorithm. Um, it can mean the world of difference. How many people are you reaching? What's the overall size of your retargeting pool? If it's only a few thousand, retargeting is going to be limited. If you're at tens of thousands, 50,000, if you have an audience of hundreds of thousands in your email list and you're able to advertise to them as well, you're in a much better place. A major predictor if we're evaluating a campaign is how large their audience is. So being able to see what's coming up here, again, going back to the plan, hey, we're hitting the right rates to buy the ads, the right CPMs, the right cost per clicks given the channel. We're seeing the right click-through rates here. Then there's different types of events that we track with the pixel. On some platforms, it's view content, page view. From there, it's add to cart. From there, it's initiate checkout. From there, it's purchase. And that's what's showing up on the ad platform for us. We could look at the volume, how many people are at each stage of the funnel there. Could look at the cost per add to cart and who's moving forward with their investment, who's in the final stages on the initiate checkout. We can look at transactional value once it gets to purchase, and that's where we look at things like return on ad spend. As Janette was mentioning, that there were updates last year, iOS 14.5, which limit our viewability into performance. And we find about 30% of the conversions we can track, about 4%, 5% from iOS users that tell Apple, yes, I want Facebook to track me. Then desktop users and Android users get up to about 30%. So, we may be seeing 30 conversions from ads and only able to track 10 on a given day, a given week, a slower campaign, a given month. But we want to be able to make sense of where the traffic's coming from on Google Analytics, any analytic tracking of the page. We want to be able to tell what's coming from where. And again, not question the metrics as much as find more of what is working so we could do more of it and at scale in the next periods of time to follow.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Looking at what's working, you can't go wrong with that. If it's working, let's do more of it, be excited about it. Hey, this is working. Let's try this, but over here, let's try this over there. It's testing it. And if it was working there, it's pretty much safe to say it's probably going to work there. So example is Facebook ads to TikTok, right? If it's working on TikTok, it might work and we could test it on Facebook. So I think it's really just leaning into that, what's working and trying it on different channels. So, yeah.
Exactly. And if you're not a professional for reading analytics, we have this analytic screenshot in the red overlay here. What you basically want to do is identify what is working and how you could optimize towards it. So, I mentioned beyond channels, audiences, messaging, and funnel. You want to have A/B tests, variants for each of those. And then you want to really use a magnifying glass for each and be able to see outliers. So what we're seeing in this screenshot is audience. If you can't read it perfectly, it's okay. Basically, it's showing which week, it's showing geographic location, it's showing which platform, new users, visits, page views, average session, bounce rate. We definitely look at age, we look at gender. There's a variety of different content consumption, interests, affinity that we can look at for each platform and be able to tell where audiences are coming from. Can look at device, could look at day and time of week. And again, searching for things that stand out. For instance, we've had campaigns that we were reaching less women with the advertising, but found that they converted at a higher level. And once we set up the system differently to target with gender, even age filters in there, we were able to see a big lift in the amount of conversions and the cost per acquisition accordingly. You can look for all different types of segments like this to identify. And I could tell you right now, on any campaign that you're looking at from our case studies, or hearing a founder say, hey, we saw 5x, a 10x return on ads, that is an average. there are some demographics that are being reached in that campaign that are performing at a much stronger level. On a 10x campaign, you probably have retargeting working at 15 to 20x, if not higher, but you're limited to how much retargeting you could run based on how many people are in your retargeting pool. You may have a prospecting group, a lookalike audience that again is 12x, 15x, and then averaging out with other sets of targeting that are 2x, 3x, and they all serve a purpose. You want to, try to polish out, improve, optimize each one. But you want to be able to, again, do more of what's working and optimize to it accordingly. And if you're not spending enough, you're not going to get enough traffic. Without traffic, you won't have the data you need to build an audience. If your budget's lower than someone else who's targeting the same audience, they will more likely get that placement. So if you're spending $100 a day, $3K a month on ads, you may be able to get some data, but you may be paying a much higher CPM because you're not going to win the bid placements from a group that's spending $1,000 a day, $30K a month. That group that is spending, $1,000 a day, they're probably more confident on their model, whether it's the plan and how they're testing it, whether it's their timelines and they know they need to raise a lot and in a small window of time. I mean, that's a small ad budget for a Reg A Plus campaign, or for advertising, on the large sense. Many groups will start between, a couple hundred, 500 a day on a Reg CF campaign. But you want to take all of this into consideration in the sense that you're not just running an advertising campaign and that's the only thing going on. The audiences you're reaching are going to see your competitors, other live investment opportunities as they're scrolling through. You want to get the right placements. You want to have your best foot out the door here for your brand.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, go ahead. Are you moving on to the next one?
You're not buying the ad spend, you're buying the traffic. That gets confused quite a bit. What does that mean to you, Janette?
Well, I think it's pretty laid out how it sounds, right? At the end of the day, you're buying the impressions. You want more investors, you want more eyeballs, so you are purchasing that audience. You want, as you increase your budget, you are increasing how many people you're reaching, and in return, their audience, as we were saying, they might share within their circle, and then it continues to build off of that. Millions and billions of people out there. So it's not just about getting your ad out there, it's getting it out there to the right audiences, to the right amount of traffic, to more traffic. More traffic is more possible investors.
Think about the overall results, the roadmap to get there versus focusing on the spend. You are betting on yourself. You're not betting on Start Engine or WeFunder or Republic. You're not betting on the agency. They're just there to give you a platform and to amplify. You are betting on yourself. You're buying that headspace, that visibility, that awareness from the audiences that you're advertising to. As you're seeing audiences care, as you're seeing them go further and further down the funnel, as you're seeing them turn into investments, you're going to want to ramp it up. If not, change audience, change messaging, change the funnel. But it's very important to look at that. I see it for other types of media, conferences. Oh, I don't know if we want to spend that to be at that conference. You're really not buying the conference. You're buying space at the conference where you're anticipated to see 25% of attendees, and they're going to come by. You can talk to them. Again, you're betting on yourself. You're betting on your team. You're betting on your pitch, your product, your investment opportunity. But it's how you're using these tools, these utilities. But don't sell your brand short. Don't say, hey, I don't know if it's going to work. It could be a loss, so I'm just not going to spend. So want to get into some examples here. And this is a company called Avidane Graphene. They had a top campaign on net capital that recently wrapped. The campaign slowed down, and we continue to try new things such as new ads, new audiences, new messaging to bring up momentum, coming up with creative ideas on how to structure messaging for potential investors to understand the offering. Saw momentum starting to pick up, so we recommended increasing the budget. Client took our advice and kept increasing week after week. I really give full credit to the founders on any campaigns we work on, any campaigns I see in the industry. Brad, the founder and CEO of Avidane Graphene, was bringing in friends and family, didn't get to 100K mark too quick, but each investor he brought in once live would reflect several investors the next day, the next week to follow based on that momentum. And saw strides after 100K, then saw it slow down around 160, even questioned equity crowdfunding as a whole from there. This is when we were able to change up some of the creative. Brad's one of those founders that every week was speaking on a different platform, conference, local angel group, local chamber of commerce, wherever it may have been, got involved everywhere. Did not take a day off, and everything that landed resonated with digital audiences. And from 160, there was a pretty straightforward trajectory, but it was only because of Brad's ability to scale, commitment to scale. Even at some of these numbers showing 329 to 420, showing afterwards, shows that pause mark at about 161K and light ad spends. But as you can see, massive click-through rate, 5.82, strong cost per click at $1.32. Not a huge ad spend, but good amounts of conversions. Pixel ROAS only at 3.5x. Meanwhile, the total campaign ROAS was at 17.8x, and we were the sole traffic source. So instead of client looking at the pixel ROAS and saying, "Hey, this is 3.5. That's 30% cost of capital. It's expensive. I don't want to do anything right now. Let's see what happens in the weeks to come." The client said, "Hey, let's do more of this. Let's do more of what's working. I know we can't trace everything down, but 17.x is good." And then after scaling, we actually got as high as 2,000 a day at different periods in the campaign. Strong click-through rate, not quite as strong as the 5.82. CPC, the cost per click, not quite as strong, but at the same time, being able to look at over 386 investments just from the advertising pixel, just from there, as well as 8.17, and there was caps. There's actually more investors that were backed up. There's a strong level of return all the way through. So perfect example of, hey, we don't love the metrics, let's slow it down. Can't tell what's coming from where, to, oh, let's do as much as we can. We're seeing performance there, let's do more of that. We're seeing performance here, let's do more of this. Let's keep it running through the entirety of the campaign. Could have slowed down after 1 million, and the rest of that occurred in a short period of time afterwards. But because kept spending and at peak levels, extra 373 came. Extra 373,000 came in. I've seen plenty of groups say, "Hey, we're at 1 million. We're just going to let the campaign kind of do its thing. We don't want to spend too much on it." When I know internally they're planning for 5 million. This one was actually they really just needed 1 million. The rest was extra. But great example of a very active founder, and we see the most active founders have the most successful campaigns, as well as ability to scale, and how that turned a marginal campaign into a top campaign.
Yeah, definitely. I like what you said about having a founder really lean in and being productive on their end as well. Our ads and our team are an extension of whatever the company and the founder is doing. So, when we're looking at new things, new ads, new audiences to show to, if we have an active founder that's out there, on the campaign trail, doing events, speaking at engagements, we can definitely use that within new ads and new creatives to show when we are scaling to these traffic sources, the momentum of the company and of the founder. And people really love to, you know, buy into that, buy into the team, buy into the founder, buy into an active founder. So I definitely think that is a highlight of equity crowdfunding campaign and business in general is, having an active founder really shows a lot, and people love to see it and love to buy into it, want to be a part of it.
Absolutely. They believe in the captain. They believe in the team that are
Mm-hmm.
steering the ship. They want to be on board and, hit the destinations with those
Exactly.
individuals. Have a few more examples. Caddy, automated retail for golf. Had slow weeks, but content created traction and fodder for the campaign. Web-inar and Forbes feature created tons of traction. The more activity they created on the campaign, the better the return on ad spend. The more they did, and again, very active, very successful founders. The stronger the ads then performed. Everything goes hand in hand, as Janette's pointing out here. Once the momentum picked, we were on a roll. Some weeks the account was over 20x return on ad spend. This was their first campaign, hitting the full goal. Next one was internally. And same concept. I'd say it's true for many issuers where there's question marks at different points. Should we continue? Not as high as we want to be. I really see that pull from 100, 200, 300K, getting to 500, separating out from the herd. I think the average Reg CF last year was about 450. So separating out from other issuers, other deals, passing that mark. The momentum is investable. As Janette's mentioning, you've raised more, your investor count's higher, you're on Forbes, you're speaking at this conference. It all feeds into the storyline and makes individuals want to stay involved.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. Definitely just showing that momentum, showing that traction, definitely, gets momentum. I know we don't have them as an example now, but I would say Atom Beam is currently on that same horizon, passing their 800K milestone, really picking up momentum, doing different events, different publications, different partnerships, really shows that momentum where people, see it and they're excited about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, showing scaling here for Zirconia, in addition to Atom Beam and their current campaign, their past campaign, being able to see how, 61K turned into 452, how 25K, turned into higher levels, but setting up a stronger retargeting pool for the stages to follow. And when we're looking at this as a whole, I'm going to open it up for questions here in just a second. When we're looking at this as a whole, want to be asking ourselves, what can we change? What can we put in? What can we do at higher volumes and to get things to a good point? Janette, anything to add before we move to Q&A here?
Well, yeah, I think we had some really strong points in here. I think some of the takeaways definitely, are to, at the end of the day, don't be spooked. If you're looking at the overall campaign, if you're coming in with a strong strategy, if you're utilizing your full 12 months, there's going to be some ebbs and flows, but just really leaning into what makes you strong, what makes you stand out. Yeah, I think success is around the corner for you.
And seeing a question here of 2-3x, not very high, how did clients approve scaling, and what budgets are a good starting point and total spend on the campaign?
Mhm. So 3x is actually, I would say a beginning marker of where we would want to be. Um, it is showing positive return, right? It's still showing traction, it's showing momentum that something is working. In the sense of what's a good budget to start at, um, it varies from issuer to issuer, but I would say start at something that you're comfortable at, and and grow from there. I don't think the starting point isn't really the main factor. It's like, where can you go from here if the numbers are working?
Mhm.
So, I see some people, safe for them is 150 a day, and that works for them. But, week over week, if they're seeing the numbers, are positive, they're able to go up to 250, 300 a day. So I think the starting point is really just a test for you to feel safe, but it's where you can take it from there to get more traffic is where we really want to um, be and feel comfortable to reach more people.
Sure. Sure. And I agree. Often see groups start in that 150 to 500 a day level,
Mhm,
about 5K to 15K per month, 4,500 to 15K per month. And then scale as they see results. The number used in the industry of 10% means when everything's working, when the click-through rate's there, when the conversion rate is there, to anticipate spending about 10% of your total goal. If you raise your total goal on a successful campaign, that's an average. Showed examples here where it was a bit lower. Showed examples here where it was much higher.
mhm,
In our case study documents, we have campaigns that averaged at a 30x, other campaigns that averaged at a 5x, but were plateaued before they met us, and we're very excited to see those levels of results. So it's
mhm,
scaling into spends that allow you to hit those total amounts. If the spend's low enough, you could 2x what you're spending per week. If the spend's higher, maybe 20% increase per week. Um, and being able to reassess that each week, having your overall plan, but
mhm.
knowing that you're putting in the right numbers, matching current events, matching your performance. Seeing another question here that I like. We're all about problem solving and being able
Of
to
course.
make a campaign work. What do you do if you don't see performance after scaling?
We're spooked, right? No. If you don't see performance after scaling, I would say, look overall at what marketing channels do you have active right now. And we're still testing, we're still optimizing. So if you're scaling and it's not working, I would say maybe try new audiences, try new creatives, first and foremost. And then, if it's continuing to not perform, you can scale back. I mean, you're not stuck on just one budget. It's testing, seeing what's work. If it's not working, pull back. If it is working, do more of it. So you might go back and forth for a while, until you really find that sweet spot. But I would definitely say new audiences and new creatives, um, new channels, testing different traffic sources is what really is important.
Absolutely. New audiences, new messaging, new funnels, new calls to action. Could go
Hmm.
mid funnel, get email signups, something along those lines, and account for the sales cycle. Meaning
Hmm.
it's likely 7 touch points or more before an investor converts. It's likely a few weeks to a few months before they
Yeah.
do. So don't rule it out too quick. If you launch it and 24 hours later say it's not working, I think we could all agree that that's too quick. The
Hmm.
question is when. Can you really say, hey, this is not working, and what could we change up? But give it time, give it the ability to retarget and get there. And
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
coming up on the last 30 seconds here. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Janette, if
Yeah.
listeners want to get a hold of you, what is the best way to get in contact?
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me, Janette Cornish. Also through email, jcornish@digitalnicheagency.com. Yeah, you can definitely reach me there. Thank you so
Excellent.
much for having me.
My pleasure. Enjoyed today's discussion. As mentioned to listeners, don't be scared of scaling. Don't be scared of marketing your raise right now, as much as build a strategy, look at how you're going to take things to your goal, a full roadmap. And as soon as you are seeing performance in a consistent fashion, look to scale it. Look for the elements that you can increase to see an increased level of results. Always a pleasure broadcasting live with you here. Please feel free to reach out to us on our LinkedIn's, as Janette mentioned, to our site, and we will see you next month.
All right. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.